Get started with these with our first act.
Gary Flinn.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great honor and pleasure to introduce our very own Flint historian, Mr. Gary Flinn.
Thank you, Mark. Well, last Saturday I was in Fenton for its art walk. I was invited to go to Fenton's Open Book, that's the bookstore in historic Dibbleville in downtown Fenton, with 5 other authors, and managed to sell 6 copies of my books.
Wow. Yeah.
And as you may know, I'm working on a 3rd book, should be coming out in 2021, called Lost Flint, mainly about things that are not in Flint anymore. I'll talk about one of them in a little bit. In fact, I just gave Mark to pass around a photo, and I'll mention that when I get to the piece which depicts that photo. I'm doing 2 things from Lost Flint, which begins part 2, which starts from the early 1970s onward, and one which is a segue from the end of part 1 about Flint neighborhoods that were lost to, quote, progress, unquote. And those 2 neighborhoods are mentioned in this part, which begins part 2 of the planned Lost Flint, about the white flight to the suburbs. Flint's population peaked at 196,940 in 1960. The 1970 population fell to 193,317. Genesee County's population grew from 374,313 in 1960 to 444,341 in 1970. When expressway development and urban renewal projects forced the relocation of the Floral Park and St. John Street neighborhood residents, restrictive covenants on deeds, along with home sellers not wanting to live in integrated neighborhoods, and real estate agents who steer home buyers into certain neighborhoods, kept black home buyers from moving into more desirable neighborhoods. The lack of housing opportunities led to protests and unrest in the late 1960s. Civil unrest on 2 nights, on July 24th and 25th, 1967, in the wake of the Detroit riots, affected the St. John Street and Floral Park neighborhoods, as well as Flint's north side. Curfews and restrictions on sales of alcohol, gasoline, and guns were imposed in the wake of the disturbances. WAMM AM 1420, now WFLT radio, which was a daytime-only station at that time, was allowed to stay on the air during the unrest. The disturbances led to calls the following month for more employment opportunities for black youth and for open housing and equal accommodations. But the Flint City Commission voted down a fair housing ordinance the following month. That led to 10 days of protests attracting 4,000 people. Residents held a sleep-in front of City Hall, and Governor George Romney showed up at a unity rally. 2 months later, the commission reversed itself and approved the ordinance, but opponents signed petitions forcing a vote. On February 20th, 1968, voters approved a fair housing ordinance by a very narrow 43-vote margin out of more than 40,000 votes cast. The Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968 made restrictive covenants illegal and unenforceable, as well as prohibit discrimination based on race, religion, or place of actual origin. Governor Romney also signed a tough Michigan open housing bill. Despite legislation on the state, local, and national levels, segregation based on housing patterns continued. As black families moved out of the St. John Street and Floral Park neighborhoods in the wake of I-475 construction and urban renewal projects, some local real estate agents began soliciting either door-to-door or by phone offers to white homeowners in much of the city, which affected Flint's north and northwest sides, west of the Beer Complex, as well as the southeast side adjacent to Floral Park. That has some residents accusing real estate agents of illegal blockbusting, which is the practice of pressuring homeowners to sell because the ethnic makeup of the neighborhood was changing. White homeowners would sell their houses at below market value to real estate companies who would then sell the homes to African American buyers at a considerable profit. By 1973, the proliferation of for sale signs on front lawns led to calls to restrict the placement of for sale and sold signs. While opposed by the Flint Board of Realtors, they did favor certain restrictions, such as restricting placement of commercial for sale signs and prohibiting telephone and door-to-door solicitations by real estate agents looking for homes for sale. But that did not stem the white flag from the north and northwest sides, as well as part of the southeast side between I-69 and Living Guard Boulevard. Between 1970 and 1980, the white population declined from 138,065 to 89,470, while the black population increased from 54,237 to 66,164. In 1990, the white population decreased to 69,788, and the black population increased to 67,485. With the 2000 census, Flint shifted to a black majority, with 66,560 African Americans and 51,710 whites living in the city of Flint. And you may notice that in the 2000 census, Flint had a net loss in population. So this is just a rough draft. I'm encouraging people who read my messages on the Hidden History of Flint Facebook page, who are old enough to remember what happened in the 1970s to recall their experiences to me. So
That'd be great,
this
yeah.
is still a rough draft, so it'll change in different ways before it comes out in print. And now for the first part of Lost Flint, about places lost to progress. First, introduction. In 1973, Citizens Bank bought the entire block north of its landmark headquarters building with a weather ball on top, up to Union Street to build a planned office tower addition. It purchased 6 properties which, once vacated, were demolished in May. 3 businesses went out of business, which were Block's Working Man's Jewelry, Le Chalet Adult Bookstore, and the Farnham Word Sports Club. 4 businesses relocated: the International Sounds Music Shop, Wholesale Wig Distributors, Cole Standard Shoes, and the following. Now, I've been passing around a photo of this building, so at this point, Jenny, when she makes the video, would insert this photo. And it's of the Savoy / Rialto / Royal Theater. With the coming of television in the 1950s, like with other large cities, most movie theaters located downtown or in neighborhoods closed one by one. One theater that managed to survive in downtown Flint into the 1970s was known for most of its existence as Rialto Theater. This theater was built in 1909 as the Savoy Theater by former entertainer Louis Sunland, who offered both live vaudeville acts and movies. After Sunland died in 1935 at age 80, the theater was sold, remodeled, and renamed the Rialto. While the Rialto offered movies, it did have vaudeville acts on Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays under manager Maxie Geeler, who led his own act, Maxie and the Gang, on vaudeville nights, as well as presenting guest performers such as the Three Stooges, who appeared at the Rialto in 1938. The theater offered all-night movies for the benefit of factory workers. In 1931, the theater changed its name to the Royal and offered art and foreign films which were not well received in the blue-collar town.
Wait.
4 years later, it was leased to Nathan J. Schwartz, who offered a different mix of movies for adults only, which were initially grindhouse films, which evolved into softcore, then hardcore pornography. In 1973, Citizens Bank bought the entire block of South Saginaw Street north of the bank building at Union Street for a planned office tower. The railroad was torn down, but the 1973 Arab oil embargo and the resulting recession delayed construction of that tower until 1977. Completed in 1978, successor bank First Merit sold it to the University of Michigan in 2015, expanding the downtown campus even further downtown. It is now the University Tower building. The theater moved 1 block north to a building previously occupied by Goodwill Industries. It would be torn down in 1979 to make way for the Hyatt Regency Hotel, which is now the Riverfront Residence Hall. And that is my presentation for this month. Continue to monitor the Hidden History of Flint Facebook page for more information and photos and other tidbits I come across, as well as input from others, and I thank you very much.
Put this in here out here.
Give it up for Mr. Flynn one more time, please. Very good stuff.